Good afternoon to all of you. So first we'll talk about today BOP, balance of power. BOP, balance of power. In our last class we discussed about national power and CNP, comprehensive national power, and BOP, comprehensive security concept. So when we talk about BOP, balance of power, so what is our general understanding regarding BOP? क्या लगता है ये balance of power क्या है? Equal what? Equal power between two countries. अच्छा चलिए, before I ask this BOP, let me know some basic thing. Who are the primary actor in international relations? Primary actor of international relations. States are primary actor. Okay. This international system is a closed system or it's an open system? It's a closed system. When we talk about closed and open in IR, the meaning is different. Closed system in IR, it simply means that there are certain, जो मैंने पहली क्लास बात की, there are certain set of rules and regulation. Those who adhere with the rules and regulation, they are considered to be part of that. Otherwise, rest of the units are not recognized as a major player. Balance of power is only applicable in context of the state. Although we have discussed this, कि liberals believe कि apart from state, who else are the major players or who else are the player? MNCs are there, TNCs are there, exactly. But there is no balance of power for the actors other than state. In fact, हम थोड़ी देर में समझ में हमको आएगा कि liberals do not accept even the idea of the BOP. Their argument it is the dangerous way of understanding international relations. Whenever we talk about international relations, whenever we talk about international system, this system is a closed system. The meaning of the closed system, there is a certain set of rules and regulations which has to be followed by every and each member of the system, and mechanism is there in order to what you say to ensure that members should follow those rules and regulations, although that mechanism is not holding the power to force it except UNSC, and then there will be bilateral act of state, bilateral or unilateral act of state. एक वर्ड मैं अभी इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूं जो बार बार आएगा, एनार्की. So what is anarchy? Absence of, okay. So meaning of anarchy for us in our societal term is considered to be chaos type, but in international relations, meaning of anarchy is that absence of authority which can regulate, order, matlab global order. This global order is spontaneous. I repeat, this global order is spontaneous. क्या हुआ? रेगुलेट ऑर्डर, नो अथॉरिटी. जैसे इस देश में क्या है, हम कह सकते हैं क्या कि देयर इज एनार्की इन दिस कंट्री? नो, बिकॉज देयर इज अ अथॉरिटी टू प्लेस अस इन अ ऑर्डर. बट इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस वी से देयर इज एनार्की, देयर इज एनार्की. हाँ, okay, very good. In international relations we say there is a anarchy because there is no authority which can regulate the entire order as per their choice and wish. ध्यान सुनना मेरी बात. When we talk about United Nations, United Nation is not an authority. United Nation is an organization which has been a result of free will or sovereign exercise of the state. A state at any point of time can back off, be out of the United Nations. Do we have this option to say, okay, I am no more your citizen, I don't accept, I am not going to accept your laws? Technically, if you violate law, लेकिन इसमें क्या है, you violate law and say, okay, I do not accept you, I am out of this one. Japan is a very classic example. If you remember, in the First World War, there was a League of Nations. Japan went for a war, and when once going for a war, then Japan withdrew from member of League of Nations, say your rules and regulations are not applicable to me. I am just giving you idea. It is not a authority, or it is not a sovereign. As in country there are authority and sovereign. United Nations is just an organization which was resulted because of the free sovereign exercise of will of countries. So whether countries accept UN mandate, they do not accept UN mandate, that depend on the country. और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि UN के पास डिसीजंस को इन्फोर्स करने के लिए कोई मैकेनिज्म नहीं है. Is there any mechanism to enforce the decision of United Nations? कुछ है? अगर किसी के दिमाग में कुछ भी आ रहा हो बोलो, I'll try to answer it. Okay. Now sanctions लगा दिए, sanctions को follow कौन करेगा? Yes. तो एक्चुअल अथॉरिटी कहां लाए करती है? वो मेंबर कंट्रीज में करती है. चलिए मैं दूसरा एग्जांपल देता हूं, थोड़ा और एग्रेशन वाला, कि सपोज यूएन पास्ड अ रेजोल्यूशन कि देयर शुड बी अटैक ऑन दैट कंट्री. सो इज देयर एनी फोर्स ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशंस? Come on, UN peacekeeping forces are not the force of United Nations. Technically, that UN peacekeeping forces is just a tag. It is the military of the different countries, and it is a country's own prerogative. कोई mandatory clause भी नहीं है कि हम अपनी forces भेजें कि नहीं भेजें. For example, when there was a war in Iraq, India refused कि we are not going to send our forces. Even in Afghanistan war, US was willing कि Indian forces भी थोड़ा आ जाती तो ठीक रह जाता, लेकिन India refused कि no, we are not going to accept the Indian forces should be there. That is completely prerogative of the state whether they allow their forces. और मान लिया जाए US ने ही मना कर दिया कि मैं अपनी फोर्स नहीं दे रहा, who will attack? Even UNSC has decided कि okay, let's take a attack on China, and US says कि no, I'm not going to engage my forces against China. Then what will happen? तब तो चाइना अकेला यूएन को ही हरा देगा. टेक्निकली nobody will be entering. मैं बताना क्या चाह रहा हूं with this all examples, that's simple. United Nation is just a delegated organization authority. They do not possess the power of regulation of the global order. They cannot fix who should be powerful, who should be less powerful. That is purely a spontaneous order. तो हम ग्लोब को क्या कहते हैं, वर्ड को क्या कहते हैं कि वर्ड क्या है, एनार्किक है. International system is a anarchic system. There is no central authority which holding the equal qualities, equal structure, equal power what a government holds in a particular state. जैसे हम states में नहीं कहते हैं कि एनार्की है, वो हम इसलिए नहीं कहते हैं because in state our own government hold all the power. तो आप उसके पास अपना फोर्सेस हैं एंड उसके ऑर्डर्स को आपको फॉलो करना ही करना है. अगर आप नहीं करेंगे यू विल बी पनिश्ड. इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस देयर इज नो सच आर्ग्यूमेंट्स आते हैं, दे डू नॉट हैव. अगर आपको कंपेयर करना है तो ऐसे कर लो कि वट एवर द फीचर्स ऑफ स्टेट अथॉरिटी इज देयर, UN authority does not hold similar features. So that is why what we say international relations or international system international system is anarchic in nature. Is it clear? Anarchy का मतलब समझ में आ रहा? Anarchy is a core concept of international relations. जितनी भी theories बनी हैं सब उसके anarchic nature को ही लेकर के बनी हुई हैं कि how this anarchic world could be regulated and handled. देखिए अभी globalized world में we are searching that कि let's make a uniform rules and regulation to be used by everyone, but in reality country differ as per power they hold. जैसे मैं ये एग्जाम्पल पहले भी दिया हूं, power of China consistently increased, so its behavior and its activity also changed. In South China Sea, China is asking for the entire control up to the 9-dash line with the argument that historically this area belonged to them. Historical claim का कोई मतलब नहीं होता. You take a point of the history कि in this point of the history this area was mine, so now it is mine. How you will back it until unless you are a powerful country? You can back it only when you are a powerful. So China become powerful after 90s. China started asserting this one. They said कि नहीं पूरा 9-dash line है हमारा. And they started saying कि look, Ming dynasty, this Arunachal Pradesh was part of the southern Tibet, now it is a part of China. अब आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते हो. You can say कि no, we do not accept the line of the 11th century. Or you can say okay, even we claim of the 11th century. They'll say okay, prove your claim and get it. Technically you cannot. अभी मंगोलिया भी चंगेज खां के टाइम का अपना बता दे कि ओके वी ओरिजिनल मंगोलिया बिलोंग टू द चंगेज खां टाइम. But the point is that they should be equally powerful to implement that idea. If they are not, you cannot basically. I guess because in international relations, it is the power of the country that matters. Fine. So basic line yaad rakhiye, there is no anarchy and there is an anarchy in international system. If the anarchic word is there, then states are free players. States are free players. Free players कहने का मतलब है it is a closed system, there are certain rules and regulations. Under those rules and regulation, these states are free player. देखिए रूल्स रेगुलेशन होना और रूल रेगुलेशन को मानना दो अलग अलग बातें हैं. Maybe there are certain rules and regulation, but may not be exercised by everyone. हम ये बात क्यों कहते हैं कि United States of America continuously violate or interpret regulations in such a way that favors them. लेकिन rules हैं, लेकिन वो rules को कौन follow कर रहा है, कौन नहीं कर रहा है, ये अलग बात है. जैसे US started feeling कि okay, this organization is a terrorist organization. So US announced a government as a terrorist organization. Technically, this Iranian Revolutionary Guard is basically their current government. They announced a government as a terrorist organization, and before 2001, we are consistently proposing the idea to announce Lashkar-e-Toiba and Indian Mujahideen as an international terrorist, and we failed. उसको छोड़िए, till date we are pursuing Azhar Masood to announce as a international terrorist. It was not possible for us, because in international system things has been placed in such a way where country manipulate and articulate it. तो पहली बात तो ये समझिए कि इंटरनेशनल सिस्टम कोई यूनिफॉर्म इंटरप्रिटेशन का फेयर सिस्टम नहीं है. आई रिपीट, इंटरनेशनल सिस्टम इज नॉट अ सिस्टम ऑफ fair and uniform interpretation. Countries interpret it as per their own interest, and why they are in position to interpret it in their own ways, because anarchy is there. अगर अथॉरिटी होता तो आप लॉ का इंटरप्रिटेशन अलग नहीं कर सकते हो. गवर्नमेंट ने कहा कि चोरी करना, so it's like you cannot steal. Now you cannot say I stole, now I'm giving it back, so I can't be considered as I did something, or I did in the middle of the night, so it cannot be considered as a steal, or anything. No arguments are there. Just as per law, you are not the authority to interpret it. लेकिन इंटरनेशनल सिस्टम में ऐसा नहीं होता है. It is the country that manipulate, and if you are a powerful, while knowing that you are a wrong, nobody can take any actions against you. Again the same example, as per International Court of Justice, again South China Sea decision, that the China's claim is arbitrary. तो उसका चाइना ने कहा, जैसे उसने कहा it is arbitrary, China increased its mobilization of the forces in South China Sea. कहा कि ठीक है arbitrary है तो आओ. Technically, and nobody was there. And in fact it says we are going to announce it as a air identification defense zone, so we won't allow anyone to pass through via South China Sea. Now this is pure assertion of power. लेकिन अगर anarchy नहीं होता, if there is a world government, तो दो बातें होती. That could be a complete legitimate government, and their orders cannot be interpreted in the context. That will be a uniform order holding more or less uniform interpretations. But this is something what we say anarchic world. A world government, United Nations, and these organizations are negotiated organization, and countries at any point of time can withdraw or can to be part of that one. TPP, it was a small organization for area. ओबामा ने बहुत मेहनत करके बनाया, ट्रंप ने एक दिन बोला done. NAFTA is again a classic example. It survived for years, and one day Trump has said no NAFTA. NAFTA has gone. आपके पास ये ऑप्शन नहीं है ना कि no government. Technically, government can say you no A B C D, but you cannot say this one, because there is a sovereignty, and we all are under authority. In international relations, there is anarchy, and in anarchic system it says states are free players, they operate independently. अब इसी चीज को अलग अलग तरीके से इंटरप्रेट किया जाता है. अब मैं एक इंपॉर्टेंट बात कह रहा हूं, ध्यान सुनना. वी हैव, हमने पावर के बारे में बात की है, अपने पेपर 1 में भी बात की है, नेशनल पावर के बारे में यहां भी बात की है. नाउ अंडरस्टैंड कि नाउ इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस वेयर द सिस्टम इज फ्री एंड ओपन, there is a difference of the power among the state, isn't it? Every power is not equal, and if there is a anarchy, दोनों सिस्टम को सोचो. मतलब इसको अगर कंपेयर करो, हॉब्स, if there is a anarchy and there is a differentiation of power, so what will happen? क्या सूर्या, क्या क्या करोगे? तो you have some hidden agenda? Do you have? नहीं, एनार्किक कंडीशन में ये देख लीजिए, जो कुछ मिलेगा सब लूट लेंगे. लेकिन ओके नाउ अंडरस्टैंड कि व्हाई इट इज नॉट हैपनिंग इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस. यहां से आपको कोर कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में आएगा कि इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस देयर इज अ एनार्किक वर्ड, and there is a differentiation of power among the state, but still why not there is a chaos, why not there is a struggle, why not there is a attack of one state over another state? The answer come, there are, इसको हम कहते हैं theories of power management. Theories of power management, and balance of power is a theory of power management. Is a theory of power management. Matlab, in this word Bhutan exists, in this word United Nations exist. China के बगल में नेपाल है और इधर इंडिया है और word anarchic है. Just think. just make an imagination कि you are between a two big empires and the word anarchic, no rules or regulation, nobody is going to follow that. Still you are surviving. And it's not only the surviving, you are asserting also. Now how come it happens? Because there is a management of power. There is a one theory that is known as balance of power system. This balance of power system argue that how power of entire international system could be organized in such a way that the outcome of power is zero. It makes a balance. फिर मेरी पूरी बात ध्यान सुनिए. While writing answer, मैंने कितने terms इसमें इस्तेमाल किए. That's the difference. आपको बहुत सारी जगह you will get a lot of books where the answer they write simply what is balance of power. But as I was talking about, if you want to take edge, then you explain the system. How you're explaining the system? Don't write the story what I was talking about. Just simply talk about in a anarchic word. There is a differentiation of the power, or there is a odd distribution of power among the state. But still the outcome of the power struggle is a zero, or the outcome of the differentiation of power is a zero. That is known as balance of power. So without writing anarchic, without writing state as a free player, you cannot explain balance of power system. These two words are very important because that create the context. अगर anarchic word नहीं है तो balance of power का कोई मतलब नहीं. Balance of power, because if word is not anarchic, then it is going to be hierarchical. It is the government that is going to dictate you. So there is nothing called balance of power. Balance of power where no authority, no government is there to regulate you. Is it clear? What is balance of power is clear to everyone? हाँ. देखिए एप्लीकेबल होता है उसको मैंने पहले आपको एक्सप्लेन किया कि देयर लॉट ऑफ कन्वेंशन, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ सेट ऑफ रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन एंड ऑल द मेंबर्स टेक द प्लेज टू फॉलो इट. मैं इतनी देर से आपको चाइना के बारे में यही बता रहा था. बट these countries or these states act as per their own national interest. The interpretation of rules and regulation is as per their national interest. आज की न्यूज़ है कि India got the consular access of Kulbhushan Jadhav. Now what do you think if Pakistan would have been very powerful and close associate of United States of America, would have been ever allowed? Answer is no. अगर आप ये 90s में सोचते तो ये 90s में नहीं होता. It is just because things has been changed, it become possible. Now nobody is talking about Kashmir. And in 90s, everybody was talking about Kashmir. What happened in Maldives, I guess everybody read that news. There was a heated argument between Indian representative and Pakistani representative. Still, it did not make a headline all around the world. अगर ये 90s का टाइम होता तो सारी दुनिया के चैनल पे केवल यही बात चल रही होती और उसकी हेडलाइंस होती India has been exposed. I mean, you will find out the line will be designed in such a way. It is just because diplomatically India is in a far better position. The same rules and regulation has been interpreted in a very different way. Now, the questions of justice, questions of peace, questions of stability. मतलब पाकिस्तान को ये भी कह सकते हैं बाद में कि भाई asking such questions you are actually disturbing peace of South Asia, and Pakistan cannot do. At one point of time when India claimed about Kashmir, in most of the platform it was narrated that Indian claim for Kashmir is leading to the severe human right violation and it could be a nuclear flashpoint between India and Pakistan. ये किसी और का नहीं, पाकिस्तानी सॉरी यूएस प्रेसिडेंट का स्टेटमेंट है. It could be a nuclear flashpoint. अभी न्यूक्लियर की तो बात ही खत्म हो गई. I mean there are few one. जबकि अब पाकिस्तानी प्राइम मिनिस्टर is openly saying that it is going to be nuclear flashpoint and none of the world country is talking about this one. Nobody is taking it so serious. जब कोई कुछ कह नहीं रहा था, so they are taking it so serious. Now how it happens? Yes. What? They have? Whom? अरे मतलब इसका एप्लीकेशन क्या है? मतलब मैं ये पूछ रहा हूँ कि what exactly you mean कि पीस प्राइज के लिए नॉमिनेट किया गया? किसको सीरियसली लिया? अरे तो अभी तो इमरान खान लड़ने की बात कर रहा है ना, तो बट nobody is discussing this point. Why not they are discussing? They are not even proposing it in the Senate. मैं आपको 90s के कुछ examples देता हूँ. In 90s they properly passed resolutions and they demanded that US put certain sanctions. It's not only in India, in European Union, in ASEAN, in all of the global forum, they promoted that idea and India was under severe pressure basically. Nowadays it is not happening much. I mean, or the difference was that it was only claim and maintaining, and now things has been drastically changed. What they did in Kashmir, it was entirely different what they did earlier. कोई मैच नहीं है दोनों के बीच में, but still the voices are not that way. देखिए ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि in international relations में कि nobody will speak against you, but we compare it with the intensity. I mean थोड़ा 90s में आप US stand on कश्मीर निकाल के देखिए और उस समय की न्यूज़पेपर की कवरेज देखिए तो आपको ये समझ में आएगा कि it was entirely different. आप वेस्ट एशिया को देखिए. I mean West Asia is complete. I mean West Asian countries organize rallies, they stage protest, they submit resolutions, they do so many things, but nowadays there are still so many things are discussing. And तरीका क्या होता है? When you ask what is your opinion on the Indian adventure in Kashmir, so they'll say we are looking into the matter deeply, we are trying to get all the probable informations and will come back to you or will get back to you with the proper informations. ऐसा थोड़ी कि उनको नहीं पता होता है ये सारी चीजें. But this is आप न्यूज़ में सुनिएगा, this is a diplomatic way of just avoiding. Earlier, the time of reaction was very sharp. Just in 1-2 days, a lot of sharp reactions are there. But nowadays, it's all getting delayed. This is all just simple one. These similar rules, regulation and ideas are there, but their interpretations by the similar countries has been completely changed. And that is why we do not accept that there is a proper government and maintaining a uniform global order. मैंने ये पहले भी बताया है. At one point of time, the entire world was against China. अभी भी है, लेकिन the intensity was very high. In 60s, 70s, let me tell you, if anything happened in China, most of the UN agency reports talk about human right violation, talk about citizenship rights, talk about development, and it seems to be after reading those news कि China पता नहीं some chaotic countries are there. But in last 20 years, it has been gradually declined. A lot of changes are there. It is the same China. In fact, I believe now assertion of China is much higher than the earlier point. But still, it has been changed. So what is the logic? Again, interpretation. So argument is this: in anarchic world, this entire global system functions in context of interest. That is why, and why it works, because there is the absence of the authority. This word is anarchic, and this interpretation varies as per changing time. Is it clear to everyone? So whenever we talk about in, अब फिर से हम उसी लाइन पे आते हैं, in an anarchic world where states are primary player and uneven distribution of power is there, how come peace and stability exist? How come peace and stability exist? The answer come, it is with the BOP, balance of power system. It is balance of power system that provides peace and stability in anarchic world where uneven distribution of power exists among the state, and states are unilateral free actors, unilateral free actors. This is what we talk about BOP. So in BOP, the outcome of the power is considered to be 0, that is balanced. अब हम बात कर रहे हैं कि this how this balance of power get established, how this balance of power get established. चलिए इसको आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं ये रिपीट कर दे रहा हूं कि whenever we talk about UN conventions, whenever we talk about international organizations, whenever we talk about any regional organizations, as per the interpreter of the balance of power system, these are just a new tool of serving interest of nation. It is not something real what it talks about. Okay. Understand and connect this. Every nation's foreign policy seems to be same, okay, in documented form. Read foreign policy of US, read foreign policy of India, Pakistan, China, everyone will talk about international peace, regional peace, economic development, wiping out terrorism, everybody. It is in documented form. But what is the meaning of peace? Who is disturbing peace? What is terrorism? Who is a terrorist? Here everyone has different, sometimes antagonistic opinions basically. So whenever we talk about why this difference of opinion is there, एक लाइन में, why this difference of opinion is there? National interest, because these all interpretations are as per the national interest of a country. Now see, then what is international rule, international organizations, rules, regulation? So on a formal part, these, इसको formally क्या कहेंगे कि these are, has been designed, these organization conventions has been designed to ensure peace and stability at the global level. They ensure uniform economic development of the countries. It ensure harmonious relationship of the country. It is overall development of the entire globe. This is the formal understanding of these organizations. As there is a formal understanding of foreign policy. अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं कि foreign policy is what? So definitely it has been designed to serve the national interest, but at the same time it has been designed for a coordinated serving the national interest of everyone. Nobody will talk about कि I'll promote terrorism in order to serve my national interest. It is in a similar way. So what realists are those who support the idea of BOP, their argument is कि actually this international organization is nothing but an organized way of serving interest of the certain countries. Okay. If I ask a simple question, कि why just 5 countries are part of the UNSC? Why not democratic distribution is there? From Europe only 3 countries are there. From Africa, none of the country. From Latin America, no country is there. From Asia, just 1 country is there. So if we talk about, okay, these institutions are, the institution deliver justice, they believe in democratic principle, they believe in international peace and coordination, they believe in what we say sovereignty, equal sovereignty of the nation, then it should be there, but it is not there. On the basis of which Russian used veto, maybe in India's favor, and on the basis of which United States of America has used the veto. You cannot ever find that they use it for the democratic, universal democratic principle, peace and order and justice. They always use these things in their own interest. Although they will articulate the language whenever they will speak, but this is closely associated with their national interest. मैं एक और reference दे रहा हूँ कि when China opposed announcing Azhar Masood as a terrorist, China never said that we want India to face cross-border terrorism. They simply says that we want a uniform solution for India and Pakistan both, and we set up a specialized committee to look into the details of Azhar Masood. And that is why it is not like either we are saying he is a terrorist or even we are saying he is not a terrorist. Until unless inquiry will be completed, a common solution will be envisaged, we have to maintain the existing structure. This was the language, but when it comes to the interpretation, we will say, you know, by supporting Azhar Masood, China was more looking into safeguarding their economic assets and enterprises operating in Pakistan. This was one of the argument was there. So that is interpretation of anarchic word. The other was is the interpretation of the formal word. So BOP and realist have a similar argument कि actually these international organization, conventions, they are just the formal instruments, but they are never used, implemented in the way what is considered to be uniform notion of justice, peace and stability. There is always interpretation of the system as per the interest of the country. Is it clear? This is what their argument. और इनको हम theoretically नाम देते हैं realist. It will actually realist. Same चीज हमको दोबारा पढ़नी है. Realists are the supporter of BOP. Realists are the supporter of BOP. It is the realists who believe the word is anarchic and states uneven distribution of power among the states are there, and they operate freely in the system. So actually in anarchic word where uneven distribution of power is there, still peace and stability has been maintained as per realist because of the BOP or balance of power. And this balance of power refers to basically anarchic system where uneven distribution of power is there, but the power struggle comes in form of zero, or it ensures that there should be a balance which should not lead to any kind of violence or struggle. This is what we talk about balance of power. Now there is a balance of power, how it gets established. First type of balance of power is a simple balance of power. First is a simple balance of power. In simple balance of power, there is basically two major power centers, and they balance each other. This is simple balance of power, where because the distribution of power, जैसे Cold War period ले लीजिए, there was a United States of America and there was a USSR. So USA and USSR ensured that their power should be more or less equal, and everyone consistently try to improve their power. एक और basic notion है, we'll read in realism, that in international relations, every state actor always try to increase their power. None of the state will ever stop. They'll always consistently increase their power. So technically, in simple balance of power, the entire power is mainly divided into two poles or two power centers, and this way their outcome is zero and there is a balance of power. There is a complex balance of power system. Now this complex balance of power system is presence of multiple players. Presence of multiple power centers, and second, simple balance of power हो गया, just two major players are there, fine. In complex balance of power, there are multiple power centers. In simple balance of power, just two power centers. In multiple balance of in complex balance of power system, there are multiple power centers, maybe more than 2 or maybe more than 3, multiple. And interesting part, this balance continue to vary from regional to global level. It's continue to vary from regional to global level. जैसे हम बाद में अभी थोड़ी देर पढ़ेंगे कि how it happens. Maybe in the modern world there is no balance of power at the global level, but you might find there is a balance of power at the regional level. So when we talk about a complex balance of power system, that indicates two important things: multiplicity of the power center, and this continue to vary. This continue to vary from region to globe. Maybe in South Asia there is a balance of power, but maybe in Asia there is no balance of power. Maybe at global level there is no balance of power. There is polarity. There is a polarity. Question भी एक बार पूछा है. There might be polarity. There is difference between polarity and balance of power. In balance of power system, there is a clear-cut division of the power. In polarity, there is just the one power center that continue to increase, and its outcome is in balance of power. They are not intended to establish balance of power. अभी आएगा, आगे छोड़ दीजिए इसको. इतना क्लियर हुआ what is balance of power? Simple and complex balance of power. In complex balance of power, more than two players, multiplicity of the power centers, and this multiplicity of the power center continue to vary from regional to global level. This is known as complex balance of power system. Present is a very, no, it's not bipolar. Come on, there is no bipolar at all. I mean, nobody except that China is balancing United States of America. Do you feel this? How come China is balancing? When we talk about balance of power system, there is a consistent struggle of shaping the globe. The globe is as per United States of America. It's not with China. China is just trying hard to make its position to recognize as a power center. And a lot of politics are going around this. I'll give such examples. Abhi aayega. There's all examples are there. So it is clear. The reason being is that because realists believe they are completely controlled by state players. States cannot be controlled by the other state. But when it comes to the MNC, and if a state want to block or ban a MNC, they can completely block that. That is why they do not accept. They says even they do not accept terrorism. Their argument is that terrorism cannot flourish until unless there is a support of a state. So it is the state. It is, for them it is just the different tools of persuasion of the national interest and foreign policy, nothing more than that. They are not the stakeholders, they are not the independent players. Their simple argument is at any point of time they want to use terrorist groups. They group, ये example सही भी है. There are a lot of international players use the terrorism. In a similar way, MNCs, TNCs, even they all have been used for pursue the interest of a country. That is the view of realist. Look, I am just making this line clear that different theories in international relations is a way of interpretation of the international system, and no one is a perfect, everyone is full of criticism, and one cannot consider to be a uniform system. When you read liberals, they go with a different argument and different ideas, as we have studied in Marxism, liberalism in our paper 1. In a similar way, this is not something a uniform model. So there could be always loophole and criticism. There will be always loophole and criticism. And one more thing, foreign policy interpretations are expert analysis. No country ever come up with the full-fledged detail of their national interest and act. Understand this point. Neither India nor China or anyone ever says, look, we are doing this to pursue this national interest. There is an act of state which has been interpreted by the different scholars for persuasion of the different interest. For example, if the liberal will explain that foreign policy, their framework will be liberal. If the realist will explain that foreign policy, their understanding will be different. Again, I am using the same Kashmir 370, removal of 370. When security approach will be there, it will always talk about, or it will always discuss that it is more or less to synchronize internal and external security matters, like border security and internal security. But when see from the liberal point of view, the solution comes from complex interdependence. It means that economic development of their entire region. The same thing understood by different. If you see from the Marxism, then again you will find that the similar argument, that is a designed world order by the capitalist government. You will find it in a very different way interpretation. So it is just act is just one, removal of 370. And government of India will come up the various argument, we are doing for the welfare of the people, we are doing for to integrate the main people in the mainstream while maintaining their identity. They will talk about all these things, but the interpretations will come every time different. ऐसे बहुत सारे examples जो आपको contradictory लगेंगे, lot of examples you find it contradictory. For example, India is not signatory of NPT, but consistently pressurize Iran to sign to maintain its NPT obligation. और उसके लिए ऐसा लॉजिक देते हैं, they say कि India always show its commitment and towards international conventions and treaty. So as we are not signatory, so there is no obligation for us, but you are signatory, so this is obligation for us. I mean, you are stopping a country for non-proliferation and holding a nuclear bomb without signing NPT. And उसके बाद मिलेगा, India is deeply committed for the nuclear disarmament. I mean, you will find this. So this is just the articulation and interest. When you see a Indian foreign minister and or a foreign secretary, he will explain in a very better way ki how come holding a nuclear weapon was completely, because completely forced. It is not that our willingness to hold a nuclear bomb. It is China, it is US and all countries force us to hold nuclear bomb, otherwise you will disturb. So it is something by the out of, and we will say it is the failure of existing United Nations order, US based order, that a peaceful country like India has been forced to hold a nuclear bomb. This is the interpretation comes from the Indian side. So it is a way of interpretation. This is not the reality. This is not the reality. You know, in our masters, we always have a 15 days, after 15 days, there is a seminars with the experts are there. And they explain the same thing, how they give briefing, what is in their minds, how they interpret the things. In my MPhil last year it was there, then the George Fernandes was defense minister at that time. Even he has taken a session of us, and even we asked a question to him, ki how come you say China is the #1 enemy basically. So then he was like, I mean, it was widely criticized in the Indian media. So he was saying ki it was misquoted and misinterpreted. But Muchkund Dubey, there was a secretary, he explained in a very better way, like it was mainly we want to put that Pakistan is not at all in the race. This bomb has nothing to do with the Pakistan. So Pakistan is not even equal to the Indian side. So we are launching that we are more engaged to a bigger power than the Pakistani side. Every time these statements, these values has some other interest in their mind, and as per this interest they forward that idea. So it's make it very clear that there is no uniform, there is no single understanding of foreign policy. There is a multiple way, और कभी तो पता भी नहीं चलता है कि what exactly they planned and how they have implemented. You will come to know after 20 years by writing someone expert when will be access to certain hidden documents, and he'll explain. हेनरी किसिंजर या जॉन फॉस्टर डलेस की बुक पढ़िए, यू विल सरप्राइज विथ लॉट ऑफ अटेम्प्ट्स डन बाय द UN and USSR during this Cold War period, because nowadays people are not having access of the documents, so they do not know actually what happened. Even in 1962 war, there is a two different account. One account says there was a war, surprisingly other account says there was no war at all. The other account says it was the Chinese forces that moved to the Indian territory, they came here, they stayed for some time and they went back. You'll find out there is one account that talks about, even from the local account, few people have written this one, there was not much happen in those areas. There is just a way of difference. अब हम लोगों को क्या पता है, the way 1962 war was there and properly huge casualty of the Indian people are there, and now it is a blot in our history. It motivates our soldiers, okay, when we'll get the time. And then lot of movies has been made, literature has been written. This is all way of understanding and interpretation. Maybe once we allow all document to be accessed, जब रियल कैजुअलिटी डेटा आया तो पता लगा कैजुअलिटी ही नहीं थी. जैसे एक रिपोर्ट कहती है कि द मैक्सिमम कैजुअलिटी वाज नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ द वॉर, because of the mismanagement of the Indian army, like proper food and medical facility. That area was a wide geographical area, geographical terrain was very tough, very cold desert, they are not having enough food, communications, so a lot of people, army men died because of the starvation and because of the cold. It is not because of the Chinese bullet. There is one interpretation, we do not know the real thing what happened there basically. So it is all based on the interpretation. So whenever we write, we'll always give views, we always give framework interpretation. That's why I'll make you write and understand it is from realist perspective, it is from liberal perspective, it is from Marxist perspective, and there's nothing like what we called universal. This is BOP, and BOP is a core concept of realist. It's a realist. They believe in BOP, and liberals criticized BOP. Yes.
Sir, as you mentioned, when we see the foreign policies, typically mention good things, human rights, but when they engage diplomatically, they take into consideration their interest. So, what is the basic difference between the foreign policy and diplomacy? How to understand these two definitions?
Look, when we talk about diplomacy, diplomacy is a formal way of negotiation, pushing forward universal ideas, moral ideas in order to serve your national interest. So it is not different from the foreign policy. I am saying there is always a hidden agenda behind the foreign policy. When we read realism, uska ek principle hai that says कि country interact with each other or negotiate with each other only for the absolute gain. There is one way of understanding. Absolute gain का मतलब होता है only I am benefited, you are not benefited. But now you can ask कि why I'll enter into deal if I am not benefited? What if we both are benefited but we do not know that you are also benefited with that? ये हो सकता है, because the formal negotiation point, whatever the formal content of the negotiation is not the real interest basically. Suppose we are negotiating, let's negotiate the 100 rupees. I'm looking for something else, you are looking for something else. Here we negotiated, okay, you take 60, I'll take 40, we sign the agreement. And we make a joint statement, it will improve the connectivity, it will lead to the development and all. What I was looking, I got, you what you were looking, you got it basically. So this is absolute gain. And interpretation will come later on by the expert. By this deal, they are mainly looking for example, जैसे बहुत सारे interpretation है, what type of economic benefit China is getting investing so much in Pakistan? What type of economic investment they get? There is a strategic view that it will help in the implementation of the greater design. This is one of the interpretation. But when earlier they entered, so what they are writing with the Pakistan? Pakistan is happy with the receiving of this much of money. China was happy that now they'll get access, they'll come much closer to the Indian side. This is one interpretation. Maybe they are looking for something else, and maybe Pakistan was looking, it is not about the money. Now it is ensured that Pak occupied Kashmir will be always remain with Pakistan. There could be another way of understanding the same thing. Now China investing $100 billion there and presence of their forces are there. Now see how India will handle that issue. Technically, but they never talk about this, they will talk about we are looking for the greater economic development. So, absolute benefit is purely decided by, nobody knows, it is only the foreign policy makers know about this, what actually the grand design they are looking forward. And immediate deals are there, stake to bahut open hota hai. They talk about this treaty, they talk about that, this is just an open deal are there, everybody, the entire world know. But what are the hidden behind this, how you plan ki your interest will be served, nobody knows basically.
So the definition as per the theorist, definition of diplomacy, does it include there is a hidden agenda?
In diplomatic terms, we use national interest rather than the hidden agenda. And what is that national interest? How you can define it? We definitely will talk about this is the formal way of negotiation to serve national interest. But what is that national interest? What path will follow? We do not know about that. So, there is complex, there is a simple balance of power in balance of power system. Now, when we talk about what type of balance of power system exists in modern days, there is a one writer popularly known as T.V. Paul. This T.V. Paul has changed the concept of balance of power system. So, he was the latest one, इनका हिंदू में भी कभी-कभी आर्टिकल आ जाता है. You'll find that he said in modern balance of power system, specifically in post Cold War era, there is hard balancing, there is soft balancing, and there is asymmetric balancing. I repeat, hard balancing, soft balancing and asymmetric balancing. Okay. What is hard balance? When we talk about a hard balance, where group are engaged in formal defense organization, groups are engaged in making formal defense organizations. They enhance their hard power capability. And use it to deter or balance other group. जैसे NATO is purely a military organization. It's only confined to the security of the Atlantic area, and there is a joint hard power of the all members, and they consistently increase. At one point of time, there was a Warsaw Pact. Now there is no Warsaw Pact, but Warsaw Pact is an organization of communist countries. There was a CETO, CENTO. These all are example of hard balancing. There is an example of hard balancing, where a country individually as a group, they try to balance other country. In hard balancing, there is the least engagement of the other country. There is the least engagement of the other country. The Cold War period is a classic example of hard balancing. अब और भी फीचर होते हैं हार्ड बैलेंसिंग के. देयर इज अ अटेम्प्ट ऑफ मिलिटराइजेशन ऑफ देयर मेंबर्स, देयर इज अ अटेम्प्ट ऑफ strategic placement of arsenals and projection of hard power. This is hard balancing. When you go for a soft balancing, which is a very prevalent concept of the modern days, it says that soft balancing includes formal engagement of the countries, and there is a more projection of hard power, and countries are engaged with each other. Countries are engaged with each other. Countries are engaged with each other in all terms, political, economic and hard power. अभी मैं इसको formally लिखवा दूंगा आपको. Now what exactly it means? See the Quad. Quad is a classic example of soft balancing. We all know that the Quad has been designed to balance China, but at the same time it is India and other countries share formal relationship. India, Japan, US, Australia. If you see economically, you will find out, I mean 25% of the total export of Australia is of the Chinese goods. There is a huge engagement of Australia and China. China and US are the highest trading partner with each other. China is the biggest trading partner of India. Now you will find out with a balancer or with a opponent, you can say there is a formal, economic, political and diplomatic ties are there. Just compare. If you see NATO and Warsaw, you cannot find the similar relationship what they share today. You cannot find the Russia was the US trading partner. There was the least engagement. Here there is a, here what we do, here in soft balancing what they do, they go for what we say projection of power in order to serve the interest. It is always a probability that this soft balancing might get converted into hard balancing. But here the tools are joint naval exercises, the tools are security talks. It is not like formal organization are enhancing their military power together. Formal talks, security summits, joint exercises, this is the way to express soft power. So in modern days, there is soft balancing rather than hard balancing. अब सवाल आता है कि how come this soft balancing, why not there is a hard balancing? So one of the important argument which has been given, because of the globalization, because of the economic interdependence, there is no chance that there could be a complete formal distribution of the world. So now the era of the hard power has gone. This is the era of the soft balancing. If there will be a soft balancing, so there will be always a limited war or limited hard power engagement. इसका ये repercussions है. That's why most of the time I say that there is no chance of war. The reason being is that the world is not formally divided. The war between India and Pakistan bound to be limited one, and there is no chance at all of war between India and China, between US and China, or ever between Australia and China. There is no chance or between Japan and China, because of this soft balancing. And this is $1 billion trade is there, nobody can sacrifice this trade. And apart from that, it is not that the interest of US and China is aloof or confined only to US and China. It is well connected to the interest of India as well as Australia. So if China is closed, so China will be closed for trade for everyone. If US is closed for everyone. So there will be a multiple long term effect basically. So argument of the TV poll for the soft balancing, that in modern days, because of the globalization, economic integration, at the same time he says because of the international institutions and their success to generate even a limited power restrictions, the outcome is that there cannot be hard power engagement. The soft power balance is bound to happen. देखिए कई बार पूछा क्वेश्चन में बैलेंस ऑफ पावर सिस्टम. सो most of the book I have seen, they talk about the old idea of the balance of power. While writing, you will write more what is the new thing is going on. Soft balancing. Now, when we talk about asymmetric balance is a very new concept. This is connected with the state and non-state actors. State and non-state actor, where states try to balance non-state actors with their assertion of power. Try to balance with the assertion of power. Entering into cooperation with each other. Global war against terrorism is an example of asymmetric balance. Anti-terror cooperation balance, global war against terrorism is an example of asymmetric balance of power system. In a similar way, anti-terror cooperations against IS among European America and West, some few of the West Asian countries. This is again asymmetric balance of power. So, जैसे ही आपको कोई example में, you get an example that where few countries are together for anti-terror, you find it example of asymmetric balance. You will find it a asymmetric balance. This is what the new concept of balance of power by T.V. Paul, कि now balance of power system exists in such a way. Any question? Asymmetric मतलब नहीं, asymmetric का मतलब होता है कि there is a kind of creation of balance between non-state actor and state actors. So, there is no comparison of the power. There is no comparison of the power, and that is also for a limited time period. That is why we call it asymmetric balance. No, they do not cooperate. Anti-terror cooperation है तो they cooperate कैसे हो जाएंगे? If I am talking about the global balance of power, global war against terrorism, then how it could be between non-state actor and state? That is against always the non-state actors. लेकिन non-state actor के अलावा के, I mean, there cannot be balance against non-state actor as per realist. But it is the T.V. Paul who identify there is balance of power even against the non-state actors. Please write down. Balance of power is the heading. Balance of power has been traditionally an important fact of international relations. Fact of international relations. International relations, full stop, आगे लिखिएगा. In anarchic world, where states are holding uneven power, peace is possible only through BOP. It is considered to be a theory of power management. Dash करके, how power has been managed so there should not be accumulation of excessive power. फुल स्टॉप. चलिए अब कुछ कुछ नाम. मार्टिन वाइट. मार्टिन वाइट. मार्टिन वाइट. Balance of power is nearly a please write down. Martin White. Balance of power is nearly fundamental law of politics as it is possible to find. Second name, INNIS. Innis Claude. CLAUDE. INNIS Claude. CLAUDE. The trouble with balance of power, is not that it has no meaning, but that it has too many meanings. It has too many meanings. एक नाम और. Hans Morgenthau or Morgenthau. Whenever the term balance of power is used without qualification, comma, it refers to an act ऐसे लिखिए, it refers to an actual state of affair in which power is distributed among nations with approximately equality. How he defines, ये सब definition है balance of power की. Without holding understanding way of international politics. You can start with the definition, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, आप definition से बिल्कुल start करके लिख सकते हो. Heading, nature of balance of power. Nature of balance of power. First one, ऐसा nature of balance of power में लिखेगा, Palmer and Parkins, PALMER, Palmer and Parkins, PERKINS, Palmer and Parkins described several major features of balance of power. First one, it establishes some sort of equilibrium in power relations. Equilibrium in power relations. Equilibrium in power relationship. Full stop करके इसी में आगे लिखेंगे. Without changing distribution of power BOP creates equilibrium by many ways, such as alliances. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि there is no change in the actual power holding of state, but still equilibrium is established. And here equilibrium has been established, this impression has been created, but there is no change in the state's power. मतलब जो जितना powerful है वो उतना ही रहता है, but it establish equilibrium. Next one, temporary and unstable. Temporary and unstable. Temporary and unstable. Dash करके. In anarchic system, states are consistently looking forward for enhancing their power it leads to instability of equilibrium. And make it short time. Second point is clear. States are engaged in consistently increasing of their power. So everyone want to enhance their power. So because of that, there is always threat that this balance of power system could be disturbed. Maybe A and B and C and D, everyone is increasing their power. Maybe at some point of time, two of them remain successful and two of them failed. If those who are successful, the balance of power system has gone. That is why it is considered to be temporary and unstable. It is considered to be temporary and unstable. Continue. Next point. Balance of power system favors status quo. Is it clear? Status quo. They do not want to change the distribution of power. They always want that countries should increase power, but the proportion of the increase should be always equal, constant. There should not be change. For example, there is a group and there is a B group. इसमें 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Suppose they have a x plus 1, they have a x plus 2, they have a x plus 3 power, and in a similar way here 3, 4, 5 and 6 are there. So their proportion should be always same. So maybe if it become x plus 2, in a similar proportion power of this should be increased. Then only balance of power will remain intact. if this proportion will get disturbed, then it remain no more a balance of power, it will lead to a power, it will lead to a war. So technically balance of power is a status quo-ist. They want to maintain the existing distribution of power without any changes, but at the same time countries are completely engaged in increasing their power, increasing their power. Is it clear to everyone? एग्जाम इसके हिसाब से स्टार्टिंग में बैलेंस ऑफ पावर, अच्छा नंबर ऑफ कंट्री उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता, पावर पे फर्क पड़ता है. अब मान लिया जाए कि यू आर अलोन ऑन वन साइड एंड यू आर अ बिलियनियर एंड वी रेस्ट आर ऑन द अदर साइड, वी अर्न इन थाउजेंड्स. Isn't it a balance of power in your side? It's all about the power, it's not about the numbers. So maybe in a country, in one group there are more country, but wherever one group is there, इसमें एक example और भी होता है, हम उसको balancer कहते हैं. If some country decide not to be part of the power system, they always maintain distance, they are considered to be balancer. Once the balancer move to a side, balance of power get disturbed. During the First World War or Second World War period, you will find Britain was considered to be a balancer, because Britain was not, I mean you will find out the major rivalry was between three power centers. Britain itself was there, but Britain never entered into agreement with any. Russians and French was different. When the German started rising, so then you will find out is the rise of German and changing position of Britain. Earlier it was a Britain that made a balance between Russians and French. Later on then the rise of Germans was there, then you will see ki how Germans are becoming gradually powerful and Britain is shifting towards France and Russia. The British agreement with France and British agreement with Russia. That is a very classic example ki how there is a shift of balance of power. This is very interesting. These three countries are a major colonizer and they consistently fought with each other throughout the history. The war between Britain and France, even the probable war between Russians and Britain. But the moment there was one more stakeholder of the power and asking for the colonies, they all come together. This is very interesting. They all come together because the new claimant come, and that was Germany and Italy, because they are a newly powerful country and no country was left to divide. So how they can get? I mean, how Germany can get the colonies if the entire colony is divided between these powers? Only war was the option. बहुत पहले लिख दिया गया कि war is bound to be happen because of the rise of Germany as a major power. Because these colonies were closed colony, they won't allow trade or any resources to go to any other country. So if a country is becoming powerful, how they are going to expand their power? So the ultimate answer comes, okay, they will engage into war with the other country. So redistribution of power or resettlement of the system. So these countries which are fighting and now they come close to each other. Why we say कि First World War, I mean the Second World War is a classic. I mean Second World War, it was fought to save the colonies, but it resulted in the decolonization. Isn't it? Can anybody answer me why it resulted in decolonization? Because of the rise of the United States of America. If it would have been US, France or German, they are the winner. So we have to face the older order. It was because of the rise of United States of America, because of their rise, and they were at one point of time victim of this colonization. So they always know that they cannot rule the world with the old principles. So what they did? They re-establish a new set of principle. ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है कि during 40s you are violating human rights like anything, and in 1945 you are saying that there should be human right regime all over the world. I am talking about the Britain. You will find out the severe human right violation in India, in Africa, everywhere, and they all become champions of human right with a span of 4 or 5 years. They never talk about national self-determination, and they all started talking about, okay, let the country decide they are to whom going to be their ruler. How it happens? It is because of the US emerged as a major power to shape the world as per their own interest. ये US का interest था, so new set of the principle has come. ऐसा भी तो हो सकता था कि instead of colonization, this open economy was promoted by, why they went for देखिए capitalism was there, but because of the capitalism, it was bound to happen neoliberal or open economies, but mercantilism was followed, and mercantilism was well defended with the colonization, isn't it? It was well defended with the colonization. So colonization was the tool to prevent their economic interest. Once US emerged as a major power, so US strength was its war. दोनों war में US ने जम के business किया. In the First World War also, in the Second World War also. And even in the First World War, US entered at the last stage of the war. इसलिए US में कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ था. It was like थोड़ी देर के लिए वॉर हुआ, इंडियन पुलिस की तरह एक्ट किया यूएस ने. यू विल फाइंड आउट एट द एंड ऑफ द वॉर इट रीच्ड, एंड ऑलमोस्ट सेम थिंग हैपेंड इन द सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर. ऑल्दो इट वाज जापान दैट प्रोवोक्ड, it was not that the US unilaterally entered into war. They avoided as long as. So once everyone was settled, I mean, like entire Europe was destroyed, Americans were fine, and now they started rearranging the world. They're talking about dollar, human right, national self-determination, open trade policy. While knowing this one, in the new set of the principle, nobody can ever compete with the United States of America. So it is all about those who are looking for change and those who want to establish order. You'll always find out that this world is moving in a similar way. और हमेशा एक balancer होगा. This balancer continue to. अभी India is not a balancer, but more or less in a similar game. And balancer will be used. And Indian position won't be with the US or won't with the China. The moment, there's one explanation, US will started firming its grip, India will be with the Chinese side, thoda wasuli ho jayegi, then we can get from the US side. The moment China will be on rise, Indian position will move to the US side. And this is what exactly happened, you see. Being with both of the group, we consistently, I mean, ab sochiye, you are meeting with the US, you are getting lot of benefit, coming in India, holding meeting with China and saying against United States of America. In a single day G20 meeting, two different groups. In one group you are opposing the other group, and in other group you are opposing the other group. How it is possible? This is because of these facts. So in complex of model, I mean in complex of balance of power system, there is always balancer. थोड़ा वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री अगर आप पढ़ेंगे तो you'll have a lot of good understanding of this international relations, how it evolved basically. Technically तो IR पढ़ाने के पहले वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री पढ़ाई जानी चाहिए थी. नहीं मैं नहीं पढ़ाऊंगा. मैं पहले GS में पढ़ाता था वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री, बट आई लेफ्ट बिकॉज ऑफ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर. क्योंकि हमारे मास्टर्स में भी बिफोर रीडिंग IR फॉर 6 months ओनली वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री. आफ्टर रेनेसा till the German unification, 1871. This entire, because without understanding this, you cannot understand IR, how the modern system has emerged basically. चलिए आगे लिखिएगा. It is, हाँ, next one. Big powers are, next one, big powers are core actor of BOP. Next one, multiplicity of states as an essential condition of BOP. Next one, the test of the BOP is war. The test of the BOP is war. यहां लिखिएगा a real balance of power, a real balance of power seldom exists, seldom exists. War is a situation, war is a situation which balance of power seeks to, which balance of power seeks to prevent, and when it breaks out, seeks to prevent, and when it breaks out, comma, balance of power comes to an end, comes to an end. तो फिर ये कैसा बैलेंस ऑफ पावर है कि विच कम टू गेट एंड. पैराग्राफ चेंज करके लिखिएगा. It is widely accepted that balance of power can function perfectly if A states are determined to protect their vital rights and interests by all means, including war. देखिए पहला प्रिंसिपल इसका ये कह रहा है कि स्टेट्स आर डिटर्मिन्ड टू प्रोटेक्ट देयर वाइटल राइट्स एंड इंटरेस्ट बाय ऑल मीन्स इंक्लूडिंग वॉर. इफ countries are not interested in protecting interest, so there will be no balance of power. You should be always seeking for protecting your interest. When you seek for protecting your interest, then what you will do, that you will enhance your powers, and way of enhancement could be anything, by maybe by your own scientific development, or you will go for alliances, or some other means you will take off, you are going to take. So resultant will be that always increase of power. और सबसे बड़ी बात है, if you don't feel your interest is threatened, then why you are trying to balance? Second principle, vital interest of the states, vital interest of the states must be threatened. And there should be relative power positions of the state, and there must be relative power positions of the state. Relative power position of the state. Next one, differentiation power position. Balance of power assumes that balance will either deter the threatening state from launching an attack or permit the victim to avoid defeat if an attack should occur. क्लियर है? अब कुछ अप्लाइड प्रिंसिपल इसी के नेक्स्ट प्रिंसिपल करके लिखिएगा. nations, मतलब there is a theoretical model, इसी में लिखे D लिखे, next whatever you have written. Next one, nations in order to maintain balance of power, nations in order to maintain balance of power should be ready to change its alliances or treaties as per demand of the time, as per demand of the time. So, time or circumstances, now you see this principle. That is again a classic example कि there is no friend, there is no permanent enemy in your state, because you want to maintain balance of power system in your favor or even equilibrium, then you should be ready to switch. Maybe today someone else is associate, maybe next time you move on. So when we talk about Russia, when we talk about US, you will find out this system consistently changing. Alliances are completely consistently changing. Now the same concept, why it is happening? The answer lies because balance of power has to be maintained. Otherwise, there will be always change. Next one. US, हाँ दे सकते हो. ये सब लोकल लेवल पे बैलेंस बनाने के लिए दे कंसिस्टेंटली चेंज. मतलब ये मतलब दिस इज नॉट द एग्जांपल ऑफ मेकिंग balance on the global level. This is the example of making balance on the regional level. At one point of time when India was there, India was backed by Russia, and then it was the China and US that backed Pakistan for a long time. When this regional balance was started favoring Indian side, so you find out the US moved on the Indian side and it was China that backed Pakistan. These days even Russians are coming close, although there is dilemma with the Russians, they should go with Pakistan. So Russia followed a new policy that they are along with Pakistan and China, but not in the region where Indian states are conflicting, Indian state interests are conflicting. Where it will be a direct conflict, on that day Russia has to choose. Let's see how things go on. China, RIC. Again, this is a complex balance of power system. Okay, I'll give you a very classic picture of this complex balance of power. See Central Asia region. That's the most complex balance of power. In Central Asian region, in Central Asia, ये सब when we read India, Central Asia, the same thing I'll talk. In Central Asia, Russia is a major power. Because of growing power of China, Russia want to balance China. But at the same time, there is a consistent expansion of European Union and NATO. If you see, how come from West Europe they moved to the East Europe? East Europe was the second line of defense of USSR or Russia. So now Russia is willing that this expansion has to be stopped. It is not possible without help of China. So Russians and Chinese both are with each other in order to balance, but it is not solving the problem of balancing China. So what Russians did that? They include India. With the presence of India, Russia, India, China, in their Eurasian entire development, ये सब जितना हो रहा है, connect Central Asia policy, we are making rail connections, we are making via Chabar, we are moving to the Afghanistan. That is the greater part of India's Eurasian policy. They all are coming with each other, but there is a balance between three of this. The Russians, with the help of India, they are balancing China within the region, and together they all are balancing the expansion of EU and NATO. Then what China did that? China bring Pakistan. Why China proposed the membership of Pakistan in SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization? Then Pakistan is there to balance Indian position. Now you see, this is a very complex balance. Russians want India to be there, and Central Asian countries earlier, और ऊपर से चले जाइए, Central Asian countries are worried about the Russia because they all are at one point of time part of Russia. So they always wanted a balancer against the Russian side. दो organization है, एक है CIS and एक है SCO. CIS is almost dead because CIS में केवल Russians and Central Asians हैं, but in SCO Russian, Central Asia and China. So मैं पहले की बात कर रहा हूँ, पहले इसका नाम था Shanghai 5. Before SCO, its name was Shanghai 5. In Shanghai 5, Shanghai, Russia and few of the Central Asian countries were there. So first, Central Asian countries want Russia to be balanced by China. Shanghai 5 was made and Shanghai 5 successfully balanced China. So Russia was worried about the growing influence of China in the region. It was their playground, it was their backyard, and now China is dominating. But the need of the Central Asian countries are more economic in nature. They do not need security because Russians are enough to provide security because they need economics, and China is offering a lot of economics. China is importing oil, China is exporting finished goods. Russians and Central Asian countries have the same basket. Even Russia export oil and gas, Central Asians are having hydrocarbons. So there cannot be economic convergence between Central Asia and Russians. So the influence of China was growing and Russia was worried. Russia early warned China it should be only economic type of interaction. Gradually China started political interaction, started negotiating for their routes. Maybe they look for some establishing base also. So Russia was worried China is a lone player and it is creating trouble for the Russian side. So they need a major economic power whose needs must be oil need, and it should be exporter of the finished goods. India and China you'll find having the similar economic structure. They all are energy hungry and they are all export oriented countries. So Russian promoted Indian position in Central Asia, so Chinese could be easily balanced. Now Central Asia benefited with this one, कि monopoly of China has gone because of China was the only purchaser. Now India is another purchaser. So Central Asia also backed the Indian position in Central Asian region. And now China thought anyhow India should be balanced. The Pakistan came into play. So you'll find out this is complex interdependence. Everyone is balancing everyone in order to balance something bigger one basically. So every time they act, and it is very difficult to maintain such balance. आपको किसके साथ कितना interact करना है? I mean Russian-Indian interactions will be there. So China will also twist Russian arm. Okay, now we need India to be balanced in Indian Ocean region or in South China Sea. Help us there. So हो सकता है Russia might take a very different stand when it comes to South China Sea. Not even in the range of the Indian interest. So हम इनको यहाँ से balance करेंगे कि okay, here will say कि okay, we are along with the Chinese side sometimes, so Russia will be under pressure कि ये भी मिल गया China के साथ. So this game is always on. This game is always on, and everybody is holding each other hand, and at any point of time they can twist it. मतलब John Foster Dulles ने बहुत सही कहा है कि the modern world is like everyone is holding each other's hand, and with the changing geographical terrain they are looking forward to twist each other's arm basically. जैसे ही आपको मौका मिला आपने मोड़ा कि भाई वहां से हमको रिजल्ट मिल जाए. जैसे ब्रिक्स समिट हुई, India was proposing anti-terror. Chinese put Russians don't come with any anti-terror proposals. So Indian anti-terror proposal was supported by China, but Russia did not extend. Not a single statement has been given on this part. So India was under shock. How come Russia did this one? So what we did that we completely started looking forward, our diversifying our defense relationship, and we started looking forward towards Israel, we started looking forward from France. So Russia started saying ki, how this is happening basically. This is what foreign policy is, and everyone need to take care of this great game. This is not the simple balance of power. That's why the language of international politics is always good, is the best language. People will talk to each other always for the development, common development, but this is what the reality. So always think कि इसके पीछे कुछ ज़्यादा खतरनाक है, and everyone is looking forward. चलिए आगे लिखिएगा. हाँ, next point. In BOP, in balance of power system, in BOP, balance of power system, no nation is to be totally eliminated. No nation is to be totally eliminated in war. Because it disturbed BOP, because it disturbed BOP. War is aimed only at, इसी में, war is aimed only at the weakening of power of the violator of the balance. Full stop. After war, a new balance of power system, is achieved. Now you see this thing, like if there is a war, country must not be eliminated. You just weak that country, but don't eliminate that country. मैं कुछ पुराने example दे रहा हूँ. If you remember, when German unification was going on, so there was a one power center was France, other was Austria and Hungary, and Prussia was the third power center, which was emerging. When Prussia was looking forward to war with Austria and Hungary, Prussia was not that powerful at that time. So directly entering into the war, they went to France. I mean, Bismarck was there. He went to France and said, French king, okay, we are looking forward to have a war with Austria and Hungary, and we believe we will easily defeat, the language was, we will easily defeat Austria and Hungary. Once we will defeat Austria and Hungary, so we are going to provide you certain of the German speaking small states under the French control. Now the French king was thinking something else. His understanding was that Prussia is a new country, Austria-Hungary is an older and bigger one, they cannot defeat it. And they are just bluffing that we'll defeat it. So let them start a war. This war is going to be prolonged. And I am going to make an entry, and I'll take states from both of the sides. I'll claim state from the Germans also, and I'll take a state from the Austria and Hungary. So France says, okay, please go for a war. Now interesting, why Bismarck is considered to be fine diplomat? Because he anticipated well what French king will think. And French king thought the way he wanted him to think basically. And then war starts, and within few days it was Prussia that won the war. एक लाइन है वॉर ऑफ वर्टोगा करके एक जगह यहाँ वॉर हुआ. सो expert at that time has written, in Vertoga it was not the Austria and Hungary get defeated, it was the France that get defeated, because once the war was over, now France was under pressure कि now Austria and Hungary was defeated, one balancer has gone and Prussia become a major power. And then French king started looking for the old promises what Germans has did. You asked to defeat the war and we will provide you certain German speaking countries. So what he did that, Bismarck said ki his king, look, I am going outside to the city. If anyone come and ask you, you said you are ill, you are not well, and ask them to send letters. ये आ गया. And then French envoys moved to the Prussian king. Prussian king was not there. I mean, he was not well, so he refused to meet. Then a letter has come to the Bismarck कि provide these German speaking state to us. Now what he did that, he made two things. First he did that, he communicated to the French court कि look, the king was fit and he was not ill at all. He disgraced and disrespected the French king. And this is a great disrespect for the French king. French king must take certain actions. And actually after this information, French king mobilized his army, started mobilizing his army. And he was in need of support of all German speaking states. He publicly published those letters in newspapers by saying this, look, France is eyeing on you people, I mean on you states. Now it is a time to be accumulate, to be united and defeat France. And all German speaking state supported Prussia just in a span of 6 months. And in the war 1817, it was Prussia that defeated France. Nobody ever accepted that Prussia can ever defeat France. France was such a powerful country. But the Bismarck in one shot neutralized France in the war of Austria and Hungary, and the second time he united all of the German speaking states. उसमें एक और catch था. When he was about to war with with France, then they went to Britain also. I mean, Bismarck went to Britain not to interfere in the war, because he said same to the Britain, कि now we are going to defeat France. So now they are going to defeat to the France, and Britain was sure कि they will defeat to the France. Now British diplomats were better than French. They know, yeah, you are going to defeat it, but listen, you are not going to capture any part of France. Austria and Hungary will remain an independent country, and only German speaking states will be united. No balance of power should be threatened. So when the war happened in 1871, when Franco-Prussia war, Prussia defeated France, but except one territory, Alsace and Lorraine. See the First World War. First World War, they have taken it back again basically. The same Alsace and Lorraine, except this, none of the German, none of the British, so none of the French part was taken by Germans, nor made it independent. It has to be remain with the France, and Austria and Hungary was remain intact. Only German speaking state. So what happened? A third power center emerged. France, Austria and Hungary, this group, and Britain. This is how balance of power was maintained. So when this point is saying that in war you are not going to eliminate, option to tha, you can take the French half of the territory, you can divide Austria and Hungary, what they did after the First World War. If you remember, First World War के बाद एक प्री कंडीशन बना दी गई कि ऑस्ट्रिया और हंगरी एक साथ नहीं रहेंगे, और तो और जर्मनी के साथ उनका कोई मिलिट्री टाई अप नहीं होगा. Why they made this one? Because they knowing कि they are making blocks and that will disturb the balance of power system. You will the same thing find when Crimean War happened. Again, Italian unification was also a classic display of this one diplomacy. I mean, I personally believe Count Cabur was a master diplomat. I mean, the way he united the entire Italy, or the way Bismarck did that, it was purely based on their understanding and what we say, you can say, I mean, what their pre-understanding of the whole system. But in all wars, this balance of power system was applicable. No country ever allow you to disturb this balance of power. This is what the last point you have written.
So is it similar to the buffer state, the creation of buffer state?
No. Buffer state is different and balance of power system is different. Buffer state is a neutral state. In balance of power, they take a side. That's a basic difference.
How much role does the philosophical foundation of a country play in the foreign policy? For example, Russia and China are communist or claim to be communist. So does that have a role in the current regime? Because earlier it used to do, like in the First World War, it was dictatorship versus democracy. In the
nowadays most of the experts do not take this line. Their argument is that in globalized world, the differentiation of the ideologies has gone. The entire world is just having one ideology. So the role of philosophical foundation has gone. Now, when we talk about India, we talk about India as a peaceful country. In article, नहीं ये अच्छा है कि इससे आप agree नहीं करते हैं. And when we talk, क्या हो गया फिर ऐतराज आपको? अच्छा ठीक है भाई, India is a peaceful country. You'll find out कि this most of the countries has adopted this model. We included in our foreign policy, in our constitution also, how we are going to deal with the other countries. It is all framed in the foreign policy, I mean framed in the peaceful manner. Sometimes we say Jawaharlal Nehru, he was a mix of idealism and realism. When it comes to Indira Gandhi, we say कि she was a hardcore realist. And uske baad to we do not know what they are realists or arbitrary players, but there are different way of understanding. So there is, I'm just quoting one. There was one scholar who believed that this philosophical foundation, moral principle, they are just a tool to justify your foreign policy stand. I mean, मैं ये example पहले भी कई बार दिया हूँ. Like, I mean, India claimed to be a peaceful nation. Then we went for a nuclear explosion. And we named the nuclear explosion Smiling Buddha. And a Buddha is known for, isn't it a big contradictions? So this is what you justify, ki look, our explosion is also a peaceful. It's a PNE, peaceful nuclear explosion. चलिए आगे लिखिए. ठीक है, basic principles. These are the basic principle of balance of power system. Heading डालिए, balance of power system in post Cold War era. As per TV poll, there is a three type of balance of power. Three type of balance of power exist in post Cold War era. First one, hard balancing. Hard balancing. According to him, when there is a hard balancing, states engage in interstate rivalry, full stop. States adopt, point 2 इसी में, state adopt strategies to build and update their military capability, next one, states create and maintain formal alliances and counter alliances to match the capabilities of their key opponents. Key opponents. Opponents, full stop. Next one, hard balances completely dependent on enhancing hard power capabilities and least engagements with opponents. Second लिखिए soft balancing. Point 1, it involves only tactical balancing characterized by lack of formal alliance among friendly countries. Next one, soft balancing occurs when states generally develop limited security understanding with one another to balance a potential threatening state or rising power. ब्रैकेट में लिखिएगा लिमिटेड सिक्योरिटी एंगेजमेंट. तो यहां लिमिटेड सिक्योरिटी एंगेजमेंट का मतलब हो गया मे बी दे आर एंटरिंग इनटू नेवल एक्सरसाइजेज, दे आर गोइंग फॉर some peace talks, security talks, giving each other strategic partnership. Such kind of arguments are there, but it is not the real balancing. Next one, soft balance is often based on limited arms buildup, ad hoc cooperation, exercise, and collaborations. Fine. Last लिखिए asymmetric balance. TV pole refers to the act of balancing or containing threats posed by non-state actors next one. It also refers to efforts by state sponsored terrorist groups to weaken established nation. Fine. ये if they ask any question on BOP, so try to include both part of your answer. TV poll को कोई ज़रूरत नहीं कि आप बहुत डिटेल में दें, but you should write. If they talk about a question like examine balance of power system in the contemporary world, then the theoretical premise will be TV poll's premise, because this is the best suited examples or understanding of the balance of power in the current scenario basically. Fine. चलिए इसमें हम एक चीज और लिख लेते हैं. बैलेंस ऑफ पावर आपने हेडिंग ये डाली ना, बैलेंस ऑफ पावर इन पोस्ट वॉर. ठीक है, आगे लिखिएगा इसी में. आगे लिखिए. द बैलेंस ऑफ पावर एज अ थ्योरी, बैलेंस ऑफ पावर एज अ थ्योरी is essentially a theory of securities and insecurities. As per Michael Fortman, Fortman, since the end of Cold War, great powers have not formed counterbalancing coalition to guard counterbalancing coalition to guard against counterbalancing coalition to guard against US predominance. Robert Ross, Robert Ross, Robert Ross, R-O-S-S, Robert Ross argue that China is pursuing an indirect form of balancing through internal mobilization but may never be in a position to build a true anti-US coalition. True anti-US coalition. Jack Levy, J-A-C-K, Jack Levy, L-E-V-Y, Jack Levy argued that balance of power theory is not universal. In fact, it varies. James J. W-I-R-T-Z, James J. W-I-R-T-Z argued that in contemporary world, there is unipolarity rather than balance of power system. But balance of power system exists mainly in regional dynamics. There is a consistent effort to shift this balance of power at global level. And at the same time, vice versa. Or in other words, लिख लीजिए vice versa. In other words, balance of power has to be remain at the regional level. इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? There is a consistent effort of regional powers to shift this balance of power towards the global level. ये जो आप देखते हो अभी आप जो कह रहे थे कि China is emerging as a power, this is a consistent effort that the balance of power that exists in Asia or in sub-region, it has to go up to the global level, where US, and what US is doing? So that it could remain balanced to the regional level. It should know. So when China is emerging, anti-China coalition has to be formed at the regional level. Forget about the global level. Now, the way United States of America has helped India to become a modern military power, extended the India's diplomatic power at the global level, mainly to balance the Chinese emergence as a global player to to balance United States of America. So their main focus is that the balance should always remain at the regional level rather than go to the global level. No, multipolarity is little bit different thing.
So why are we writing of China as a global power? Because like in terms of economics, it is like the biggest economy in terms of GDP, PPP. Like in purchasing power parity, it has crossed US also, and that too by double the margin. So still we are writing it off as a like an emerging economy rather than an
Okay.
equally existing.
Because as per understanding of the power, it cannot be decided around the economic power. It mainly decide on the capacity of a country to shape economic principle, ideas and institutions. I am just giving example. If you see Saudi Arabian economy, their purchasing power, it is not less than any of the European countries. But we never consider Saudi Arabia as a major power, because they are not capable enough even to shape the regional order properly. And the same thing happening with the Chinese side. They are negotiating hard, but they are not in position to shape. Another example is there. Japan always remained a major economic power throughout the Cold War period, but it was never considered as a major power. It was always a US ally. So actually economic power is not the criteria. It is just a one means to consolidate your power positioning. And even a country is holding a military power, but they are not in position to mobilize the globe in their own favor, asserting those military powers, arsenals basically to fulfill in its end, it holds no meaning. I will give one more example. Israel, sabko chhodiye, Israel is one of the major military power, but still we do not count it as a global power. One of the important reason, acceptability of the country, okay, you are a powerful, or around that you are in position to mobilize, it's completely lagged by Israel. अगर US diplomatic support हटा दे Israel के लिए, तो Israel is nothing except holding a big power basically. It is because of that China, if you compare the power of United States of America, the power of even Russia to mobilize countries, shape a regional order or global order, China is not holding that much capacity. It is because of that we do not consider China as a global power. Relatively, India is a bigger power than many of the European countries in terms of economic power, military power. But again, we do not have that much of capacity to set the order. हम regional order set नहीं कर सकते हैं, global order तो बहुत दूर की बात है. So that's why we do not consider a country as a global power. So just merely holding these indicators are not enough to consider that. China तो खुद को push कर ही रहा है कि okay, we are a global power, we are a global power, and US बार बार कह रहा है बैठो, you are a regional power, you are a regional power. That is all politics. Even we claim we are a global power, China sit down, you are a regional power. So this is just a game. But when you will be in position to shape the world, then you become a regional power. बिल्कुल कोल्ड वॉर पीरियड को ध्यान से देखो तो आपको समझ में आएगा, both were holding the regional orders. अभी consistent effort है, और country like India is consistently changing its position in order to maximize its benefit. हम सिस्टम से बेनिफिट ले रहे हैं, सिस्टम को डिफाइन नहीं कर रहे हैं. तो आप पावर तब तक नहीं बनते हो जब तक आप सिस्टम को डिफाइन नहीं, until unless you define the system.
Sir, but many says that when China overtakes USA in terms of economy, so then it will emerge.
I guess recent news was there in the trade war, it was the United States of America that win the trade war, I guess. Now, in what sense it was announced that US win the trade war? In what sense? Because look, in the existing world, in the existing rules and regulation, China cannot survive a lock. Please read this report ki how many Chinese units has been shut down in these trade war times. It's not about that the per capita income is there. If it would continue for one more year, China cannot sustain. Maybe biggest economy of the globe, because the rules and regulation has been set by someone, and it has been set in such a way that system favors them. System favors them. Abhi kya hai? Chinese economy is a big economy because Apple belongs to China, US, and everything of Apple has been done in China, isn't it? And now with just one shot, let allow Apple to increase their price, China will go on with all businesses. By Apple price become competitive because it shifted its base to China. If just take back, okay, now let's go for the word in slowdown, so people do not have much purchasing power. So those who are rich, they'll remain rich, they'll purchase Apple, and let them go with no work from the United States of America. Chinese sustainability will become very difficult. जैसे इंडियन के बारे में बार बार कहा जाता था कि there is a huge investment in India. I mean, the investment in what you say BPOs are not investment. You know, हम economy को count करते हैं कि so many BPOs are running, but in order to run BPO, you need just a internet connections, few computers, and a building on a rent. Nothing else is required. The moment you want to shut down this business, second hand to सारे computers बिक जाएंगे and rent खत्म and all business has shift. This is because of that. This is not considered to be, because they are always in position to control and regulate you. The moment outsourcing become an agenda of the US, we are worried here. It is just because it is not our economy that provide the sustainability. It is someone else economy is providing sustainability. We are the biggest player of that economic base. तो डॉलर का क्या करोगे आप? डॉलर तो डॉलर है. अब जब तक डॉलर रिप्लेस नहीं होगा, कमजोर नहीं होगा, वॉर इकोनॉमी आएगी नहीं, until unless it's very difficult to replace US. And this is again irony. The entire US, I mean entire world is anti-US technically. Everyone criticize US, but still US is enjoying all powers. चलिए, हाँ.
Sir, support of US to like India in terms of weapons. So is this actually justified, keeping in mind like India has a lot of dependence upon China being trade and all. So there wouldn't be any direct confrontation and as India, we are not involved in any proxy or kind of like Pakistan as in for India, say US support. So what is actually the purpose? Because isn't it in the longer run US is actually creating two fronts that can fight with against US? So
No.
kind of
The point is नहीं ऐसा हमको
small issue, so उसके अंदर US can involve direct, I mean they can have direct involvement. So weighing both arguments, what is like better?
Okay. His question is basically कि actually by making India a powerful country, US is creating two front because India is unable to make a balance of China. This is what your line of argument is. Is it?
मतलब सर चाइना को जो काउंटर करना है वो तो एक्चुअली उतनी तरह से उस मैग्नीट्यूड से हो नहीं रहा है. डायरेक्ट कन्फ्रंटेशन होगा नहीं, प्रॉक्सी वॉर हम कर नहीं रहे हैं. तो एक तरह से हो गया है आर्म्स रेस होता रहेगा और इंडिया डेवलप करेगा यूएस की हेल्प से, तो चाइना और ज़्यादा स्पीड से करेगा. तो इससे हम उन्हें तो डिटर नहीं कर रहे हैं, काइंड ऑफ एक तरह से यूएस के लिए दो पोल्स और क्रिएट कर रहे हैं.
अच्छा, आपका कहना है कि US is creating another power center in order to balance Chinese side. Now point is, I mean, if the regional rivalry will remain, until unless China has decided to enter a kind of security arrangements, this balance of power will exist. The security dilemma that exists between India and China, that's the symbol of balancing with each other. My point is that when we talk about a unipolar world, this unipolarity is again not on the line of the country possessing power. is on the line that a country is in position, अभी इनको मैं बता रहा था, shaping the rules and regulation. Now, यहीं से बात करते हैं. China is looking forward to create a China-centric order in Asia. China-centric order. So it means that Chinese opposition should be completely eliminated. But until unless India is eliminated or become friend of the China, this antipole will be always created. This antipole is not necessary to get resulted in terms of a war or in terms of a, what you say, cross-border terrorism or something like that. It also works in terms of opposing each other on diplomatic front, on different issues, opposing each other's assertion also. During the entire Cold War, how many times it was USSR and US enter a war against each other? Do you find any example in the entire history? Just one, when the tension Cuban Missile Crisis was there. And the rest of the time, on the behalf of the US and USSR, rest of the world was fighting technically. But what both are doing? They are supplying ideology, supplying arms and ammunitions. So US is trying to push the idea that still unipolarity is there, you two are the major person in this South Asian region, now you balance each other. And India is looking forward for this balance because it is benefiting us. We are getting arms and ammunition. हम बहुत सारे काम करा ले रहे हैं. We are looking for our diplomatic support. I mean, identifying this opportunity, कि how much you convince US. This is what the foreign policy judgment. I mean, this opportunity was always available. You need to push US कि ये काम भी कर दीजिए, ये काम भी कर दीजिए. I mean, announcing Azhar Masood as a terrorist, asking for membership of NSG, supporting Indian position for UNSC, ensuring that India is facing terrorism. This is how you are successfully promoting it. ऐसा नहीं है कि US is accepting everything so easily. You need to negotiate with the US side. कि भाई we want this one, नहीं तो अगले दिन चाइना के साथ फोटो खिंचवा लो आप एक जा करके. Things will change. This is how the game is. This is how the game is. So this balance of power will remain. You cannot create, या फिर आप India China should emerge in such a level that the three power center exist. If the two power center, if you think that okay, India and China both will oppose United States of America, then technically it is not going to be happen. और उस समय तो बिल्कुल नहीं, when there is so much of benefit is coming to the Indian side. हम सिर्फ एक ही चीज करेंगे, we'll project ourselves that we are not with the US. We are an independent foreign policy makers, we are independent players who is negotiating with the US as per the merit of the case. It is not reality that we are following their line. So we will make our statements, जब जब मन करेगा US के खिलाफ कुछ बोल देंगे. This is not happening exactly. But we always trying, and US is trying कि tarnish the Indian image as an independent player. Let make them in our side. So it will always remain dependent. देखिए फर्क होता है. Why countries accept you as an independent player? Until unless you made independent decision irrespective of the forces that is operating. सबसे बढ़िया example है US sanction on Iran. The moment you resist that sanction and you successfully establish yourself as a pole, you will become considered as an independent player. And this is what China is doing hard. It's not about your economic benefit or loss. It's all about your capacity to emerge as an independent pole, or you are just going in the line of US or following another group basically. This is a bigger struggle what we are facing these days. तो आंसर करना जरूरी है. It's not about कि वॉर करना. ये हर जगह आपको दिखाई देगा. If Pakistan went for, I mean after the strike, something happened with Pakistan, it was mandatory for Pakistan. Otherwise, उनकी पॉलिटिकल लाइफ क्या होगी? हमें मतलब ये होगा कि अच्छा इंडिया आया धमकी दे के चला गया, what you did. I mean Imran Khan won't be able to answer. It's not about that he is looking for a war. This अभी आपको नहीं लग रहा है कि जितनी धमकियां एक दूसरे को दे रहे हैं ये टिपिकल इंडियन स्टाइल वाली धमकियां हैं. When you say when the two neighbors fight with each other and every time they say पहले तो बताएंगे कि मेरे पास ये है, मेरे पास ये है, मेरे साथ ये है, and they'll talk about I have this, they all belongs to me, and they'll find out I'll see you, and this is what exactly happening basically. They'll never enter into a war. Around the look, when you go with the flow of the power structure, when you try to harness the power structure for your own benefit, that's the difference. I mean, how your leadership see the things and how it extracts benefit for you. You will always face a resistance. Koi nahi chhodta. Everyone will put resistance against you, and you need to negotiate. Even if you plan aid and loan to someone, then even they'll show that okay, we are not in need, it is you who are providing that, और उसके बाद ये भी कहेंगे why not you double it. So this is foreign policy. Yes. नहीं, वो ग्लोबल, देखिए ग्लोबल ऑर्डर उस समय था कोल्ड वॉर पीरियड. नाउ ही बिलीव दैट कि इन दिस स्ट्रक्चर India cannot be benefited being part of the any side. So what again, as the global structure existed, he adopted a foreign policy to get the maximum benefit of the Cold War period. India was the biggest beneficiary of the Cold War. ये गलतफहमी नहीं. India was the biggest beneficiary. NAM movement was along with India, Yugoslavia, Egypt. None of the countries are power except India. India was helped by both of them, USSR and USA, during all period. When USA decided not to help India, Russia was there. When Russia in 1962 war said, on one hand there is a friend and there is a brother. China was a brother and India was a friend. Then it was the Americans who decided to supply arms and ammunition to the Indian side. It's all about getting the maximum benefit of the existing structure. बल्कि Pakistan was a part of the US. It completely destroyed the internal congruency of the Pakistan. मतलब पाकिस्तान एक ऐसा country बन गया, military very powerful, economically very low, socially highly backward, and lot of civil society forces existent. Because when this congruency is missing basically. Last line लिखिएगा इसमें. TV Paul argued that states are pursuing an array of array of security strategies, including soft balancing in today's unipolar world. Done?